Yes, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. All right. Technology works. It's a beautiful thing. Thank you all so much for being here today. I hear that it's kind of lonely in room 415, so I'm glad you all got our move to 506 today. We're going to try to move through the agenda. I know we have a couple of members of the subcommittee who are on their way up. We'll start with ERS. Jim Potvin is with us on Zoom, so we're going to ask him to present. Members of the committee, you should all have a copy of our track sheet here. Chairman Dickey, you good? Everybody's got one. Okay. Mr. Potvin, if you can hear us, the floor is yours, sir, and we are all ears.
All right, I can hear you, and I greatly appreciate your flexibility with me today. I'm Jim Potvin. I'm the Executive Director for the Employees Retirement System of Georgia. We have 3 programs for which state funds are appropriated. 2 of them are the Georgia Military Pension Fund and the Public School Employees Retirement System. These are the required actuarial contributions, what we refer to as the ADEC, and we have no changes from the original budget last year. So I'll direct your attention to the System Administration program, where there is a change in the amount of just under $500 million. This refers to the second of installments. The first one was made in fiscal year 24 to essentially pay down some of the unfunded liability in the employees' retirement system. Each one of these $500 million installments reduces directly the funded liability by almost 10%. So our funding ratio, which is the ratio of assets to liabilities in the system, our funded ratio directly improves by 2.5% upon receipt of the $500 million. We have not received a valuation since the first installment was received. So all I can give you is an estimate, but I do expect that we will see an improvement overall in our funded ratio from the 72% that we had in FY23 to about the 75 or 76% range. The stated objective of this is to get us to an 80% funded ratio as quickly as possible, so that the formula that is used to calculate COLAs would sort of automatically improve as a result of that. The second installment that is planned in the FY24, that's proposed in the FY24, would get us very close to that 80% level. We have some investment tailwinds from the past couple of years. We've had 2 straight years of double-digit returns, and this year we're at about 7.2%, 7 months through the year. So we're doing pretty well on investments. Hopefully we can keep that going for a few more months and have another good year, which will also help. And I'll be happy to take any questions if there are any from the committee.
Committee members, do you have any questions? Again, page 5 of your tracking sheet. Seeing none, Mr. Potvin, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Again, thank you for your flexibility.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. We'll see you again soon. Chairman Jones, you've got paperwork. You're good? Okay, just making sure. Next up, Commissioner Jacobs from DeKalb, if you will, join us at the podium, wherever, seat. The floor is yours.
Well, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My tracking sheet has page 28, but I don't know if y'all have a different. You're good? Okay.
If you will, just refer to the line item.
Okay, I can do that.
That way everybody here won't get confused.
Okay, well, we are section 22, and our first change is 22.2.1 in our nutrition services program. And this is an addition of $100,000 for startup funds for our summer food service program. We call that Happy Helpings. You might recall this from last year. $100,000 was added in the amended budget last year for us to recruit more sponsors and nonprofits to help us serve those meals during the summer when school is out. One of the barriers to some of our nonprofits coming on board with us is they don't have enough money for startup. So for equipment and coolers and even to get some staff on board. So this allows us to provide about a maximum of $10,000 in grants to individual nonprofits to sign on to serve meals throughout the summer to school-age children. We were very successful last summer, and this $100,000 we received resulted in over 100,000 additional meals served in 12 counties that were not served before. So this is just a repeat of some one-time funding from last year to help us serve more counties and more meals. Our next item is in the pre-K program 22.3.1. The first item is an increase of $7.4 million to increase funds to provide salary parity for our Georgia pre-K teachers to move them to the State Board of Education salary schedule. You may remember as part of the House Working Group on Early Ed last year, one of the many recommendations that you all supported was moving our pre-K teachers to the T&E K-12 scale, which funding was provided. When we went back and we did that calculation again, this is a true up. So we do need an additional $7.4 million to fully move all of our teachers from a quasi scale that we'd used for years to the official T&E scale. This was something that we missed in the original calculation, and this will true up and fully fund that move for our teachers to the T&E scale. And then the last item is 22.3.2. The governor is allowing us with a yes item to use some existing funds to finish up and pay for the development of our new pre-K management system. We built a new pre-K management system over the last year. It was a 20-year-old system and needed a lot of modernization. We used some one-time federal COVID dollars to pay almost $9 million of that cost, but we had to spend that money by September of 2024. So this is allowing us to pay the rest of that bill for the development of that system with lottery dollars. Those are all of our changes for the amended.
Any questions from the committee? Chairman Dickey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Amy, for bringing this. The summer food meal. Are there other groups, organizations that do that same thing in our areas, or is this not going to overlap with other programs?
So to my knowledge, there are two main. One is through the Department of Education, their Seamless Sever program. They definitely serve more meals than our Happy Helpings program, but it would be different sponsors and different nonprofits. So there wouldn't be any overlap. There's definitely not a lack of need for more sponsors to serve these meals because we've got the money to reimburse them from the USDA. And so we just need sponsors and nonprofits to actually serve these meals to the kids.
Okay, thank you.
To my friend, former mayor of Savannah,
Yes.
Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I would like to know is how are you selecting these agencies? Because I know in our city, we had the food bank, then you have agencies like EOA Economic Development Authority, but there are also some other areas like within our churches, within the schools. So how do you go about selecting some of this in order to get everybody served?
So we will
It's been-
definitely target, I'm sorry, were you finished? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So in the counties, we're serving meals currently in 103 counties. So that leaves a few counties where we need to target. So we will target those counties and we will target directly nonprofits. So we're only allowed to work with nonprofits. It can be a church, it can be a community organization. And then of course we have to vet them through some federal requirements to make sure they're financially stable and they have the administrative processes in place to make sure they can meet all those types of requirements. But we will focus this directly on those counties that do not have any food service
Okay.
with nonprofits in those areas. And we will start this as soon as this budget is signed by the governor, because we know that's quite a process, but it takes us some time to make those relationships in those counties.
Yes, so the only thing, I hope that you're selecting some of those that are down in our area. I'm not going to tell you who, what, where, and how, because that's your responsibility. But I'm hoping that we can reach out to some of the counties that really need to help.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Any other questions? Seeing none. Commissioner,
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Next up, GOSA, Director Hawkins, if you will join us, sit, stand, dance. Your call.
Okay, for amended, we started 27.11. And I have Stephen Pruitt here, President of SREB, if you have any questions, because the only change for the amended budget is an infusion of 160,000. And that's for a regional crisis recovery network in partnership with SREB and the other 15 states in that network to provide student mental health in response to significant public safety or natural disaster. That's really all I know, except that there's intensive counseling training, and we'll talk about that in FY26. But if you have questions, Stephen's here.
Well, thank you for mentioning that. And as someone who has served on SREB's board, if you're not familiar with this organization, please familiarize yourself with that. We have a great tie here in Georgia with our governor, having I would say a small role in that.
Just a small board chair.
Chair, small role. But this is something that I wholeheartedly support and appreciate SREB and what you're doing to make this a reality. I don't know that we can fund mental health enough. So
Absolutely. And I just learned an interesting story that was the genesis of this. So when Steve was the superintendent of education in Kentucky, there was a shooting and there was not a response. And so he camped out with counselors for about a week. Tell me if I'm getting this right.
Yeah, close enough.
But from that, he realized that when you're in the midst of a disaster, that's not the time to plan recovery. And so I really wholeheartedly respect this.
thank you. Chairman Jones, are you 28?
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you very much for bringing this. I share the chairman's sentiment regarding mental health and addictive disease. Real quick, I know you're going to get more into it into the big budget, but right now, is this going to be a hybrid solution in terms of in-person and telehealth, or has there been I'll say a decision on modality?
You want to take the podium, Mike, just to make it easy on everybody?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your question. So this is really stabilization and psychological first aid. So when there is a significant event, such as a natural disaster or a school shooting, the goal is to have 650 counselors across our 16 states that then could be deployed for up to 10 days at a time to provide that stabilization for that school district or that college. So it's not so much about telehealth. It's actually about putting people on the ground. The funding is actually for the training itself. SREB is actually using our own money we will be covering all the expenses for travel, room, and board for anybody that's deployed to an area. But they'll all be employed by the local school district or by the local college or by their local college.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Hagan, is that 25?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the natural disaster aspect of mental health needs here. And I just want to tell you, thank you. We had children who were found trapped in homes after Hurricane Helene with no adults and had been there for days. And so it's heartbreaking. And we were thankful that there were coaches that went looking for their team and found them with younger siblings. And I don't think it can be understated how traumatic that is for anybody, but especially young people. So I just wanted to publicly say thank you for what you're doing. And I certainly do support your work. Thank you.
Joy shared with you kind of the impetus for all of this, but we also had to endure all, different kinds of natural disasters. And of course, I'm a native Georgian. I might have been state superintendent in Kentucky, but Georgia's home. And when Helene came through, both here and with what it did to Western North Carolina, we did not want to set up a situation where it was just for one avenue. In fact, we actually had a nonprofit in North Carolina give us $20,000 to get the training started in North Carolina. because there are actually school districts there who have just started school back. At least one that frankly are still looking for students. And so that actually will probably be our first deployment, is to help one or two of the Western North Carolina districts, because you're right. It's an incredible weight on those communities, especially rural communities.
Thank you again for being here. Any other questions? Seeing none. Thank you both. Appreciate it.
On to 27.11 of the FY26 budget, which is.
We're just going to stick
That's
with
it.
amended today. You
All
get
right.
off easy.
Thank
Make it.
you.
You get to come back and dance next time though, okay?
Small.
Small ask. Small ask. Okay. Thank you again for being here. Mr. Rome, if you will, please join us. Same thing, wherever you're most comfortable.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. We have several changes. We are section 24. First change in our budget is a 24.4.2. This is a in the charter schools program, a transfer pursuant to House Bill 318. This is a $265,000 transfer, which is a reflection of district charter work and positions transferring to our state charter commission, which is an administratively attached agency to us. Our next major change is under 24.16.1 under QBE equalization. This is a cleanup for Gainesville City and Hall County, which is a little over $24 million reduction. Both districts kind of self-reported this digest cleanup. We've already adjusted our allotment sheets. This is just to put the budget in alignment with that. Next up is our 24.18 changes in QBE. The first major one is the decrease in formula funds for completion schools of about 1.8 million. This is an FTE due to FTE decline in enrollment. We also have increase in formula funds for the midterm adjustment based on enrollment growth. I didn't get to do the joint presentation, but we had about 1,308 new FTEs to the state this year, or an increase. Many of those were similar to the previous several years, which were increases in the high cost programs such as gifted, ESOL, special ed, and those type categories. We had a next big change under QBE is the some formula adjustments for the State Charter Commission, T&E. That's $12 million, or I'm sorry, that's $5 million. We had an increase in formula funds for the State Commission Charter School Supplement of a little about 13 million. And these are just regular formula ones, each amended. In 24.18.8, we have an increase in funds for the special needs scholarship. It's got about 12.4 million. We've been kind of in communication with your budget office. We actually need about 13.2 million. So we'll be asking for about 700,000 to 800,000 additional dollars based on our second quarter payment in order to make that program whole. Next up, we're very excited about 24.22, the school security grant. This is to provide funds for security grants in an amount of $21,635 per school system, which comes out to about $50 million for our districts. This is my understanding that this grant will work similar to the FY23 grant as a reimbursement grant, and is one time, so it will run in conjunction with the 109 million that we got in the 25 base, but that is more of a formula that's sent out monthly. Next change is in actually the State Charter School Commission, 24.23.2. You'll see about $610,000 addition there. 265,000 is the transfer from the Department of Education's, and then the 344,000 is my understanding that was the commission working with the governor's office on needing some funds to get the program started. I believe there's a transition to lower that fund amount in 26 and then eventually to not need those additional funds. Under 24.25, Technology and career ed, we have a $95,000 adjustment to provide funds for 2 full-time, 2 part-time positions to continue our Great Promise Partnership Program. You'll notice it's 95,000, and then I don't have the exact number, but it's a little more in 26. This 95 is to continue out the rest of FY 25, and the 26 is the full funded amount. But this Great Promise Partnership is a work-based learning program which targets high school students who are at risk of not graduating. It partners with employers to boost attendance and grades. Many of the students who participated are actually offered full-time jobs with these companies. So it's a great program. The superintendent supports and the governor supports as well. So we're very happy to get those funds. The next thing I was just going to add is one thing that we would be working with the House Appropriation, the Senate Appropriation Budget Office is we will need an additional funding and curriculum, much as we have in several past years with the AP and PSAT testing programs. The base amount in those programs hasn't been adjusted since I think 2015, and each year normally at the amendment we have to come and shore those funds up. And in doing that, we're going to need about an additional $3 million for AP testing, and it's some of the numbers are very similar to last year. As you remember, we introduced AP Pre-Calc, which has been very popular with students. And then we need an additional 1.31 million for PSATs.
Could you get us numbers on
Yes.
what those look like, just so we know where those dollars are coming from, where the ask is coming from, what the
Yeah.
utilization looks like?
I can-
That's okay. Does that complete everything before I turn it over?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Floor Leader Wade.
Just one clarification. I may have heard you incorrectly, so if I did, I apologize. But on the security grants, that's actually per school system. So it's every individual school is going to receive 21,635 each, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And then the only other question I had is, where's the superintendent? Did he have a conflict today?
The superintendent.
Is Superintendent Woods here today?
Oh, he was at Gale.
Oh, Gale Conference. So he had a conflict. Okay, thank you. Just wanted to.
Yes, sir.
No, thank you for being here.
Appreciate it. Any other questions from the committee?
Sorry. My first question that I forgot about, teacher kid, sorry about that. How many students, what's the increase in the number of students that are receiving the special needs scholarship? And then if you could provide it to Chairman, if you don't know that number today, I'd just like to know the new students and the total number.
We can get that too.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions? Okay, we can talk about that. Seeing none, thank you for being here.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. If there's nothing else from the committee, we will stand adjourned. Thank you all for being here.